Most games reward you for dodging attacks. In Clair Obscur Expedition 33, it's not just encouraged, it's required. Every enemy turn tests your reflexes and timing. Do it right and you avoid all damage or even counterattack. The game tracks every success, punishes every failure, and it low-key roasts you in the loading screen every time you crash and burn. But what happens if you ignore all of it? What if you never dodge, never parry, not even once? The game says that mastering these mechanics is required for expert difficulty. Let's see how true that really is. By the way, this video is sponsored by War Thunder, more on that later. Moments after the game begins, our first test arrives. A nice little practice duel with Mael. How will we fare in our first combat of the game? It's a mixed bag. Mael does more damage than we do and quickly gets us down to 6 health. I used my biggest attack to try and finish her, but I missed one of the perfect quick time events, so my damage was less than full potential. Lucky for me, it turns out I don't need to win this duel to keep going, which is a relief since I wasn't prepared to endure Mael's roasting if I messed up another quick time event.
No shame losing to a superior fighter.
Yeah, superior fighter. Guess what? My next dueling partner is much more my speed. Oh yeah, this punching ball is about to feel my wrath. Sorry pal, no shame losing to a superior fighter. The score is 1-1, we've got 1 win and 1 loss, but it's here where I made my first serious blunder of the playthrough. I agreed to help inspire a painter by dodging my lady's beautiful moves. Oh my god, there's no way out of this without dodging. I soft-locked myself in an endless cycle of getting my ass beat by Sophie. I was forced to load a previous save file, which did at least have one upside. It's round 2, big boy, no shame losing to a superior fighter. God damn it. We're off to a rough start here. Yeah, stretch it out, champ. That'll help. With one last chance to redeem myself in the prologue, I'm up against Mael again.
No shame losing to a superior fighter.
Cool. So let's check the scoreboard, shall we? My victories include a punching bag twice, and my losses include Mael twice, a mime once, and Sophie, who isn't even an expeditioner. The Nevrons are gonna slap me silly and eat me for breakfast. If I had any sense, I'd have just stayed home, but miraculously, I survived the trip over and woke up in the spring meadows. The fights are real from here on out. I have to be able to win or I'm not going to be able to progress. The first Nevron I faced was a Lancelier, and it pounded me down to 37 health before I managed to take it down. I have absolutely no way to heal, so I just continued forward and hoped for the best. Inside a dark, scary cave, I found another fight, but luckily I was joined by an ally, Luna. I only have 37 health, but thank God she is at full life. Gustav used an item called a healing tint to recover 30% of his health, but he still just died in one hit regardless, so that was a total waste. Luna gave the fight a try on her own, but still ended up dying. We go again, full offense this time. Gustav used his turn to attack, as did Luna, and the portiere made a mistake and attacked Luna, so we scooped up an easy win. The reward for our trouble? A completely useless Pictos Dodger. Gain 1 action point on perfect dodge. Never gonna happen. I trudged forward and my eyes were met with a beautiful sight, an expedition flag. This is where I can rest and fully restore my health and replenish any potions I've used, just in time too, because there's more enemies blocking the path and defeating them is the only way to get stronger. Each fight essentially saw my characters getting battered down to low health, but we were barely able to survive and eventually level up. Each level up grants 3 attribute points, but I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to use them on, so I stayed weak for now and I kept pushing forward. It took a very small amount of time until I got stuck, facing enemies that were faster than my characters and dealt far too much damage. My only good option at this stage in the game was to pump all of my attribute points into vitality and hope it's enough to survive their hits. Attempt 2 saw both of my characters survive to take their turn, and we killed one Nevron before they could go again. I used the healing tint to increase our odds of survival, and we killed the second flyer. With an energy tint, Luna gave Gustav enough action points to finish off the last enemy, and it literally took me 9 attribute points into health for each character, a healing tint, and an energy tint, but we continue. We have managed to clear the path of this Nevron ambush. Luna set her sights on a Nevron and called out that it looks dangerous, which means it's a boss fight. Now, I actually have an incredibly overpowered strategy to deal with this boss fight. Yeah, so I'm gonna just go ahead and go around this dude and grab the chroma back here, and then let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah, so that's a pretty high level gameplay. I finally found a Pictos that will actually help. Burning shots. It gives a 20% chance to apply burn on my free aim shots. If I equip a Pictos and use it in 4 combats, then it becomes available for all of my party members to use at the same time, provided they have enough Lumina points to equip it. So my objective is clear: fight everything, get stronger, and make progress. Every fight is brutal, but thanks to the burn from my free aim shots, my enemies will sometimes die at the start of their turn before they can blast my ass. After a couple more successful fights, the expedition found its next expedition flag, and this is where we hit our first impossible roadblock. In order to progress any further, we have to clear a mandatory boss fight against this. Oh, okay, that dude should have dodged.
Fuck.
Yeah, so this is an Avik. It starts with 3 shields, each of which can absorb one of my hits, and it can deal 146 damage with a melee attack. It deals even more when it uses its spell, which hits 3 times, and the 3rd hit damages both my characters at the same time. I dealt an absolutely pitiful amount of damage before I was wiped out, and the game of course reminded me that I can change the difficulty mode at any time. Thanks game, I get it, I suck. There's no way for me to sneak around this fight or do anything tricky, I just have to win. And while my second attempt dealt slightly more damage, I'm still miles away from a win here. I was really hoping I wasn't gonna have to resort to this strategy, but honestly, it makes sense, and this early in the game, there's no creative solution to this problem that I can find. My only option is to grind level ups. There were a couple Pictos I missed on my way here, so I went back and scooped up Critical Burn and Dead Energy. Neither one of these is a game changer for the fight, but they're definitely going to help. And then I just got into killing enemies and then resting at an expedition flag to get them to respawn so I could kill them all over again. It didn't take very long until I was able to clear all the enemies without giving them a chance to fight back, and I tried fighting Avik again at level 6, but I just got butchered. But each level up we go for is going to be harder than the last, it's going to take more time, and I am eager to get out of here. So I tried the fight again at level 7, and I did about half of Avik's health before dying. Not enough. But after looking at my skill trees, I decided level 8 was the perfect time to give this a real shot, because Luna is able to learn Thermal Transfer and Mayhem, and she has a really strong combo here. One of the biggest problems in this fight is that my characters don't have enough action points to just keep pumping damage, and Thermal Transfer solves that by giving Luna 4 action points back if her enemy is burning. So I can simply swap back and forth between lighting Avik on fire and then boosting up Luna's action points instead of seeing them just decline constantly. And Gustav's job here is just to kind of hope that he gets lucky with burning shots and applies some burn so that Luna can just keep shining in this fight. Pretty soon, Luna was maxed out at 9 action points, and I took a few free aim shots hoping for another burn, but no luck. Thankfully, Thermal Transfer can give me all those action points back as I keep laying damage down. Avik summons minions after you get her health down by about 25%, and in past attempts, these minions were a bit of a problem, but now that Luna has maxed out action points, she can just shoot them both all the way down, and thanks to Dead Energy, she still has enough action points left over to use Thermal Transfer and start boosting herself back up. Avik came in with a spell here, and thankfully Luna survived because she has 4 ice stains built up, and her ability Mayhem can unleash all 4 of them for massive damage. Avik's break bar was full, so this attack also stunned it for a turn. Sadly, the damage was just shy of finishing the battle, and Luna was slaughtered before her next turn. Gustav has only 1 action point left, and Avik has 7 shields to absorb damage, so I went with a Revive Tint to get Luna back, and she fired off a couple shots to break the shields. I was hoping for a burn, but I didn't get it to proc. So I used Immolation to guarantee the burn, and Avik started charging up a big attack. My party is completely drained of action points, hit points, and items, so I simply attacked with Gustav. Alright, please just be enough damage, come on. Did I do it? This looks like a I think I did it. Fuck yeah, I did it. Okay, that is 1 boss down without a single dodge or parry. From here, the world opens up to the world map, where I can travel to new areas. And I couldn't help but wish my characters could just hop into a tank and start blasting our way through our enemies. But even though they can't, you can thanks to this video's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's available for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. It's got over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations, ranging from old school biplanes and armored cars to high-tech fighter jets and battle tanks, allowing you to battle with realistic graphics and authentic sound effects while you command and history's most powerful war machines. I like how each vehicle is intricately modeled down to its individual components, all of which can be damaged, allowing you to combine game knowledge with accuracy to dismantle your enemies one critical system at a time. So join a worldwide community of over 70 million players in epic PvP combat that's sure to be a hit for fans of military history. Play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices by using my links in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players on PC and consoles that haven't played in 6 months will get a massive bonus pack, including premium vehicles, the Eagle of Valor exclusive vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account time. Available for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Now, let's get back to the challenge run. There's not any groundbreaking locations I can visit at this time, so I'm simply headed into the next biome, Flying Waters. Honestly, such a cool area to look at, and I really enjoyed exploring it. Even more than that, I loved killing the Nevrons that just carry huge bombs with them, making the fights extremely easy, and it's giving me way more experience than I was getting in Spring Meadows. Literally was pulling in 55 experience a fight, now I can pull in 700. I couldn't be happier, but unfortunately that happiness will soon turn to frustration when I discover that every single second spent leveling was a waste of time. I found a fancy door leading to a beautiful manor, and I recruited my third party member, Mael. And here's where the problem lies. To exit the manor and return to my adventure, I need to defeat the Curator, and every single turn he pulses out an area of effect attack that chunks my characters for way too much damage to handle. I thought to myself, no problem, grinding some level ups isn't my favorite, but all these enemies are carrying bombs, so it's not so bad. After gaining a few levels to come back and try again, I discovered that out-leveling this encounter is the wrong tactic, because apparently the Curator scales with my character's levels. So he now deals more damage and has more health. All I've gotten is more health, so we've gone the wrong direction on this one. If high level isn't the way to go, then maybe we need to try it at the lowest level possible. So we're back down to level 8. So much time wasted. But the fight seems far more manageable now. I tried out a couple different strategies, blasting him with spells from Luna or attacks from Gustav, but let's just be real about one thing. Mael is the main character in this game, and she's going to be the main character of this video. This is just her first chance to prove it. Mael's combat style involves 3 different stances: defensive, offensive, and virtuose. In virtuose stance, she deals 200% damage, and combined with her ability per se, maybe that's how you say it, she can lay down impressively high damage numbers even at level 5. But any suboptimal attempts were just falling short, so I needed to set up the perfect wombo combo. Which means Gustav needs to give her the powerful buff to increase her damage, Luna needs to light the Curator on fire so Mael can use Swift Stride to enter Virtuose stance. Then we need to survive. Looking good so far. Gustav can now use Marking Shot to guarantee we put a mark on our enemy, increasing our damage by 50%. And I just had Luna heal Mael to ensure she'd survive for her next attack. Per se deals even more damage when the enemy is marked, and the stars aligned and Mael landed a critical hit for 4,500 damage, nearly wiping the Curator out in just one attack. Luna didn't manage to survive the Curator's next attack. Gustav only had 3 hit points, but it doesn't matter because Mael has 5 action points and can skewer the Curator to clear this fight. We had just enough action points and damage to make it work, and our reward is that we now get to waste a ton of time leveling back up to prepare for our next boss fight. But hey, we've got our full party of 3, which means we can explore around, collect new pictos, get whacked by absolutely everything, but ultimately win our battles and make our way to the next roadblock, a boss named Goblu, who can pound all of my party members with his big booty smash. My first attempt was fine, but I was definitely too weak to claim victory at this level. I found a nice little area to farm enemies in, and I started running laps to take them out. It took less than 3 minutes to get over 5,000 experience, and in no time I felt ready to face Goblu again. It's a fast little feller and always went first in combat, but Gustav shot a few times to make it burn, and Luna has learned a new ability that lets her hit with lightning bolts that it is weak against. So I've been pumping more and more points into Vitality so that my party members have enough health to shrug off most attacks, and Luna was the star of the show yet again, using Mayhem with 4 lightning stains to deal about 4,000 damage in one attack. She took a few more turns to farm up 4 more lightning stains and used Mayhem to win the fight. Other than Mael, we're at level 18 now and have made it to a pivotal moment in the playthrough. Since we made it out of Falling Waters, we now have access to even more map, and this time it is giving us significantly expanded options. One of those options was a location called the Hidden Gestural Arena, and that was our first stop in the new area. I sent Luna in to fight, and she used Immolation to build up a whole bunch of burn stacks on her enemy. Eventually the burn damage was too much and our opponent fell. Our reward was a Pictos called Last Stand Critical. Any character with this gets 100% critical hit chance while fighting alone. As if that wasn't enough, whoever equips this Pictos gets 168 health and 50 defense, so we are tankier and have more damage, and I tried our luck against the next opponent, but sadly he was drastically stronger than the dude before him, so I couldn't quite take him down, but no problem. We'll come back later when we're stronger. I continued rushing my way down the storyline path, which put me in a maze full of irritating battle bots. There's these little creatures called Gestrels that build them, and the Gestrels are cute and mostly harmless, very dumb, but they love fighting and creating giant fighting monsters called Saka Patats. These are not fun for me to fight, because every time a Saka Patat dies, it crashes into my whole team, dealing damage. So even if I have enough damage to kill all my enemies before they act, they just explode all over me and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, except dodge, but we're not doing that. It's not a huge problem if I'm facing just one, but it's much more irritating when the fight continues after the explosion. Still though, everything was manageable until I got to the next boss fight. The Gestrels built something called the Ultimate Saka Patat, and it did in fact live up to the name. Between its sweeping melee attacks and constant cannon fire, my entire party was turned to Swiss cheese. There's no time for revives, heals, or anything. We're just dead, all pretty much at the same time. So, stuck once again, am I gonna go power level my characters some more? No, we're done with that. In fact, we won't be doing any more power leveling for the rest of the playthrough. Out on the world map, very close by, is a place called Redwoods, and there is this text, "Danger," that pops up when you get to the entrance. This is intended to inform you that your level is too low to handle what's inside, but for this specific playthrough, the word danger is more of a beacon, pointing me in the direction of all the overpowered Pictos I could possibly imagine. And Redwood specifically is the most friendly of all of these dangers, because all you have to do is donate 90,000 chroma to get rewarded with the recovery Pictos. This baby is a level 20 Pictos that grants 2,000 health, 324 defense, and heals 10% of my character's max health on turn start. At this point in the game, 90,000 chroma is supposed to be something to work your way up to, but I've already grinded, I've already power leveled, I've put in the work, and I'm just here to claim what's mine. I rebuilt my L to have full speed and damage instead of health because she is getting all of the health she needs from the recovery Pictos now. Then we headed over to take on the Hidden Gestural Arena, but this time will be a little different. Bertrand Big Hands landed a critical hit for 258 damage, but my L simply healed at the start of her turn for 253. Those big hands weren't good for much more than an aggressive pat on the back. For winning, my reward was a new Pictos that provides rush if I'm fighting alone, giving me more speed and therefore more chances to act in combat. Dominique Giant Feet? Well, turns out his bark was bigger than his boots, and I won and gained a Pictos that grants Shell when fighting alone, which reduces my damage taken. And Julian Tiny Head, I hate to admit it, but this dude fights like he's compensating for something, and the result was me getting my ass whooped. I'll have to try this again later. I challenged the Ultimate Saka Patat again, and Luna and Gustav both went down pretty early in the fight, but Maëlle is now fighting alone, so her buff's activated and she started shooting. Maëlle is using the weapon Brûlerum, which applies a burn stack on every critical hit, and when she fights alone, she has a 100% crit chance. So we're literally just gonna burn this thing to the ground one shot at a time. The Ultimate Saka Patat can barely even scratch Maëlle. It certainly couldn't do enough damage to get past the 10% healing she's receiving each turn, and in no time, we'd wiped the big guy out after face tanking every attack it could muster. And with that, we'd gained access to the Gestural Village. Of course, the fighting wasn't over, the Gestrals love to fight, so I took part in an arena battle, slaughtering my enemies one after another with ease, and the final challenger was an expeditioner named Ciel, and after skewering her, I won the tournament and the Gestrals offered Maëlle a special weapon, plus Ciel joined the party. The new weapon that Maëlle got causes her to start combat in Virtuose stance, which increases her damage by 200%, but for now I'm gonna stick with Brûlerum so that I can keep my burning gun damagey build going. From the merchant in town, I picked up Healing Mark, which recovers 25% of my health when hitting a marked enemy. Total game changer. One of my Pictos gives me a 20% chance to mark enemies whenever I shoot them, and there's a really effective synergy with this and stacking burn. Every time an enemy starts their turn while marked and burned, Healing Mark will activate and heal me for 25% of my health. Then I can just shoot the mark on my next turn to heal for another 25%. So in other words, I can easily heal like half of my health every single turn as long as I get lucky and manage to put a mark on my enemy with my free aim shot. Using this strategy, I was able to out-heal all of Julian Tiny Head's damage, even when he took 2 turns in a row, because on each of those turns, I was just healing for more than he could hurt me. After almost 6 minutes of fighting, Mael had taken 13,837 damage and was literally at full health at the end of the fight, and her reward? The solo fighter Pictos and empowering last stand. Whenever Mael fights alone, she is now going to deal way more damage and be a force to be reckoned with. After making sure Mael's build was all set up for her shooty Bernie build, I set off to test its limits. There was a Burgeon that I'd avoided in Falling Waters earlier, and I just strolled right up to it. Dude was massive and trying to slap the shit out of me, but his hits were about as weak as a toddler. Easy win. Continuing along the storyline, I met a rock named Francois that beat on Luna, so Mael kicked its ass in return. And from here, our party made a new friend, Esquier. He is a delight to be around, and he's also our mighty steed out here in the world map. As we progress through the game, he's going to gain access to more and more abilities that help us access more locations. Now at this point, against the average enemy, Mael can just outlast them infinitely, although my other party members, you're usually having a bad time. But in certain battles, there's just no hope, such as this one against enemies that inflict Blight. Blight reduces max health by 10% per stack, and Mael was just butchered, down to 506 max health by the end. All of Mael's healing is percent health based, so I'm basically just worn down and destroyed by them. Thankfully though, these Nevrons are optional fights, and I can always come back later when I'm stronger and try them again. Realistically, the biggest risk I'm up against right now is the fact that the further I progress, the more Mael is falling off. All of her power is coming from a single level 20 Pictos and a build that focuses on healing. But if enemies get stronger and their attacks get too powerful, we could just get wiped out and not be able to sustain the fight. So to try and mitigate that risk a little bit, my party members are going to be as offensive as possible, hopefully destroying fights before they can even really get started. Ciel is going to be a major player for the rest of the playthrough, and her weapon of choice for the entirety of it is going to be the Chation. I don't know how to pronounce most of the words I'm saying, I'm sure I'm butchering them. Ciel's character design is that she applies stacks of foretell onto her enemies with some abilities, and she consumes them with other abilities to deal more damage. And this weapon makes it so that every time she applies stacks of foretell, it maxes them out on her target, but Ciel takes double damage while wielding it. I don't really mind the double damage because realistically she's gonna die every fight anyway, so in other words, Ciel is just gonna be my glass cannon. Big damage, but dies to pretty much everything. Since every fight's outcome ultimately falls on Mael's shoulders, I pumped her weapon level as high as I could and dumped a massive amount of Lumina points into her so that she could equip a ton of Pictos. And while it might look a little complicated, her playstyle is really simple. Shoot enemies to make them burn, mark enemies to heal like crazy, and when the rest of the party dies, she's super duper strong both offensively and defensively. And in the meantime, Ciel is pumping out huge damage on turn 1, and Luna's no joke either. It's just that unless my enemies choose to single target attack Mael, everybody dies straight away. So while Mael's job is to outlast every fight, Ciel and Luna's jobs are just pump as much damage as possible before they get butchered. There's one big boss fight standing between me and Act 2, and I slapped one last upgrade onto Mael, Enfeebling Mark. Any marked enemy is now going to deal less damage, so Mael can very safely end her turn whenever an enemy is marked and just count on their reduced damage and her massive healing to keep her going. With that, I headed in to face off against the Lamp Master. Ciel has an ability that lets her play a second turn after using it, so she was able to do that and deal over 10,000 damage on round 1. Luna was a little slow to get a turn in, but the Lamp Master spread its damage around and didn't land any kills. After Ciel has used both a Sun and a Moon ability, she actually goes into a state called Twilight where she deals even more damage, and since she survived, she was able to pump out 15,000 damage just about. The Lamp Master chose its target poorly, slashing at Mael and barely hurting her, so Ciel got to pump onto it again, and Luna finished off phase 1 of the fight with mayhem. Phase 2 takes us outside, and once again, the Lamp Master proves it has absolutely no idea what's going on by attacking Mael. Like really, you're doing it wrong here, it's not gonna help. But the Lamp Master has this little ritual with his lamps where you're supposed to shoot them in order that they lit up, and just try to tell me that my aim is not hitting that lamp. I thought I was losing my mind, but it must have just bugged or something, but holy shit, this Lamp Master had a clever ruse designed to make Ciel just waste all of her action points so that it could then wipe her out without taking more damage. And I fell for it. It got me. Whatever. Luna was actually holding up really, really well against the Lampmaster's attacks, and I put a couple of defensive Pictos on her. I just wasn't expecting her to actually be alive for this long, and she tanked this thing like a beast and just barely held on with 38 hit points after a flurry of attacks. And she's got her stains fully charged, so she blasted the Lampmaster with Mayhem, and Mael finished it off with a 9,999 damage skewer. And just like that, we have officially beaten Act 1's final boss without dodging or parrying, and Luna didn't even die in the fight, which is awesome. Onwards to Act 2, where Verso joins the party to take Gustav's place, and in Act 2, Esquier learns how to swim, which gives us a ton of new locations to visit, including one location that we really shouldn't be visiting right now. But before heading there, I pop back into Stonewave Cliffs to grab the defensive mode Pictos. It gives me a 30% damage reduction at the cost of 1 AP per hit, and I can just combine that with another Pictos called Energizing Pain, which gives me 1 AP whenever I take damage. So in other words, for 11 Lumina points, I just get 30% damage reduction with no drawback. And I of course slapped that onto Mael, making her even tankier than she already was. But the real magic is waiting for me in the Dark Shores. And there's that word danger again, informing me that I am exactly where I want to be. There are some extremely tough customers here, but I actually don't have to fight them. I can just outrun them. So I swooped on in and grabbed the level 23 Pictos and Media's Res, I don't know, which gives me 1300 defense, and I continued to very smoothly outmaneuver my enemies to stay out of combat. Yeah, they can't catch me. I'm just gonna go ahead and loot everything while I'm here. Oh, fuck. Oh, I can't oh, fuck, I couldn't jump over. I'm so boned. Look at that combat queue. They get 4 turns in a row. They're so fast. Holy fuck, they just obliterated me. Yeah, so like I said, I very cleverly stayed away from everything and looted everything, no problem, no hiccups. I am, in fact, the best. I slapped my new Picto onto my L, and it gives huge defense and 3 shields on battle start, but it does say that it halves her max health. Except, for some reason, this half health mechanic is just super buggy, and most of the time it doesn't even work, which means there's no drawback whatsoever. I just get massive damage reduction from the raw defense. To test out just how massive my damage reduction is, I hopped into a battle with Sprong, a boss not intended to be defeated until Act 3. And with skilled dodging and a lot of patience, you can beat Sprong anytime you like, but since this is a no dodge run, that's obviously not going to work out. However, Sprong was struggling to kill me with the amount of healing I was getting and the amount of defense I now have, and I managed to survive a full rotation of his attacks before he finally took me down on his 6th turn. But that is a pretty huge endorsement for just how tanky Mael is now. That being said, there is no amount of tankiness that will be able to save me from a mandatory boss fight that's coming up, and I knew that I would probably be forced to make some big changes eventually. But yeah, as you can see, my new Picto just continued to be bugging. It cut my health in half sometimes, but inexplicably would just return it most of the time. So if it works, it works. I don't really need to question it. I'm just gonna use it. I initially wasn't expecting to have any trouble with the Duelist boss fight, and Ciel and Luna just pumped as much damage as they could, but of course Ciel went down and Luna came slightly after. But Mael was essentially taking 0 damage and I could heal all of it back before the next turn. There was really no way that it could harm me, or so I thought. But a good ways into the fight, he applied Inverted to Mael, which causes all healing received to deal damage instead. I couldn't remember from the first time I faced this dude if the Inverted was a 1-turn thing or the rest of the fight. And if it's the rest of the fight, I just am basically gonna kill myself with Healing Mark. So I decided to do something drastic, and I used a Healing Tint on myself. I have Mael running the Picto's Cleansing Tint, which removes status effects when using a Healing Tint. So I just nuked my own hit points for 1600 damage to make sure that Inverted was removed. The Duelist hacked away at me for a while, and then I took another turn and it hacked away at me some more. Things were looking pretty dicey. We got down to 200 health, jumping back up to 500 when my turn started, and his next turn he dropped me to 82 hit points when I realized, I can just use another Healing Tint, it'll just heal me this time. And now that I was stabilized, there's really nothing that this guy can do. I was just getting some really bad RNG on finding marks with my free aim shots, but now I have all the time in the world to find some and loop combat in such a way that I'm just out healing everything. I stopped to take a look at my progress on the world map. We started at Spring Meadows, worked our way up to Stonewave Cliffs, swam to the Forgotten Battlefield, and now we're here, headed for Minoko's station. And it truly feels like nothing can stop me now. Sure, there's some optional boss fights here and there that I'm just not strong enough to handle yet, but there have been no mandatory fights standing in my path that I can't beat. So with that being the case, there's no reason to just not keep rushing the main story and see if I hit a roadblock. We met the final member of our party, Minoko, and I really like Minoko. He's really fun, I like his abilities. We had to win a fight against him to recruit him, and he was pretty strong, just not compared to Mael. After recruiting Minoko, the game pretty explicitly tells me to proceed along the quest line and that there's danger over in this area. So obviously we're gonna go and check out the danger zone because that's where all the good stuff is. The more I headed that way, the more warnings the game was giving me about the area being too treacherous, so, you know, I'm practically salivating just thinking about all the cool shit waiting for me. The Frozen Hearts is a danger zone that had not one, not two, but three super overpowered Pictos for me to collect. We got a Pictos that boosts my speed by 400 and adds damage against burning targets. Literally couldn't be better for Mael. Everything about that is a huge yes. There's another Pictos that grants 1500 health and 24% crit rate, and a final one that gives 1400 health and 700 defense. Mael's gonna go ahead and take anti-freeze and burn affinity, so she'll be super tanky and super fast, and the other Pictos I'll just swap around as needed to other party members to make them a little bit stronger. Remember that very first boss I skipped out on ages ago? Dead, easy kill. I don't feel bad for bullying it, not one bit. There's one other boss that was in a danger zone that I had actually skipped because the only thing in here is gained by defeating the boss, and this guy hits hard. I could not take it down. Even with as strong as Mael is now, I am not invincible. The next part of the main story quest put me in an area that split my party up, and to make matters worse, I had accidentally put all the overpowered Pictos I had on Mael and Verso, and I couldn't move them over at this point, and for a moment I was a little bit concerned that this would be a problem, but here's the deal. CL is absolutely cranking damage out on turn 1, and my boy Minoko comes in after with fat area of effect swings that hit everything. Luna barely even gets to play, and if anything is left over, she can just clean it up with a massive turn 1 mayhem cast. Turns out there's literally nothing that can withstand my offense squad's initial assault, and ironically the offense squad did better than the defense squad because Verso might have a couple decent Pictos, but he's nowhere near as tanky as Mael is. He'd go down most fights, but Mael still can't die, not to trash like this. But our next challenger is leagues above the trash that we've been facing thus far. Renoir. This guy is a problem, and I can sum it up with just one word: vanish. Renoir has an attack that can vanish his target, and there's no amount of tankiness that prevents this. You either counter his vanish with a gradient parry, or you vanish. And vanishing is far worse than dying, because if Mael were to die, I still might be able to revive her. But vanish completely removes her from the fight, and there's nothing that I can do about this other than parry, which I'm not gonna do. Renoir's actual attacks are pathetic. There's literally no hope of killing Mael with them, but all it takes is one single attempt to vanish, and my best fighter is just gone, wiped from the battlefield in an instant, with no hope of getting her back. I tried the fight again, sending Minoko, CL, and Luna out first, just hoping to pump as much damage as possible, and Minoko opened with a big series of attacks. CL pumped as much damage as she could, vanish number 1, and Minoko is gone. CL pumped on Renoir again, and he responded by basically dropping a meteor on us. But we survived, and Luna pounded him with Mayhem. Another meteor, and Luna is down, but the 3 shields CL started combat with absorbed both of those attacks. So she pumped on Renoir some more, and this fool tried to drop another meteor on her, giving her yet another chance to ravage him with damage. The extra defensive Pictos I put on CL are actually really helping right now because she was surviving these big blasts all over the place, and it gave me one last turn to damage this petal that Renoir had summoned to heal himself. But then he moved in to vanish CL, just outright killed her with the first attack though. The reserve team came out, Verso and Mael, and I saw Mael had 2 turns in a row, so after lighting Renoir on fire and using an ability to enter Virtuose Stance, I wiped out the petal CL had weakened. Unfortunately, the other petal healed him for 42,000 damage. Literally devastating amount. But I don't have any options here, I just have to attack and hope for the best, so that's what I did. Verso doesn't do much damage, so it's not really an incredible loss for him to get nuked into oblivion, but I was really hoping to use him as bait for Renoir's Vanish attack, 50-50, better odds than 100% chance of death. So I revived him. Turned out to be a mistake, because Renoir slaughtered him without even targeting him directly, so the best thing I've got going for myself right now is that Mael is completely unkillable by anything other than his vanishing attack. So I simply started attacking. I was just trying to do as much damage as possible and literally just praying that he doesn't vanish Mael. Now mind you, I was fully expecting to have to retry this fight, maybe with a reworked strategy, maybe even have to reload a previous save file like half an hour ago to get out of this area so I could improve my character's builds a bit before coming back. But RNGesus smiled upon me this day and Renoir did not attempt to vanish Mael. He had a few irritating attack patterns that could either stun me or exhaust me, which stops me from getting more action points, but I finally had my moment to go for the kill. I used a gradient attack to strike him and gain a second turn, and with exactly 6 action points and his break bar full, I stunned him out of his next turn. I had 2 more turns to just pound him, but all it took was 1 more free aim headshot and victory was mine. Now, of course, this is just the Renoir easy mode fight. He's gonna wait for me at the end of Act 2, but before I can take him on again, I'll need to defeat 2 Axons. I decided to take on the creepy Axon first, and to weaken him before our fight, I can take on these 3 mini boss encounters in the area against his Angry Mask, Sad Mask, and Joyful Mask. Up against the Angry Mask, it was clear that Mael is still completely indestructible, and Ciel has learned a new ability, Delaying Slash, which can pump out nearly 20,000 damage in no time. So with that being the case and these mini boss encounters not being a challenge, I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and edit out the other 2 mini boss encounters from the video so I can save time and smoothly transition into the boss fight. Mael started phase 2 of the battle at exactly 1 hit point, but that actually wasn't the issue. Yeah, we smoothly transitioned into the middle of the fight, don't worry about it. Because my enemy has a defensive aura that gives him a shield for every attack he lands, which in this playthrough is every attack. This dude was racking up shields like he's at an all-you-can-hit buffet, so I just let the battle come to a close so I could make the necessary adjustment. And it's a simple adjustment. Mael just learns her Breaking Rules ability that destroys all enemy shields before her attack and provides her with an action point for every shield destroyed. So I headed back into the fight and I forgot to equip my new ability. Awkward. Okay, this time we're ready. Each turn against phase 1 of the fight, there's a different mask that comes out and it attacks, and each turn I just shoot the mask's weak point to destroy it so it can't go back into the mirror. Eventually this thing runs out of masks and it just devastates Mael with a giant attack that leaves her at 1 hit point. This doesn't matter because I heal when my turn starts and I was in defensive stance just in case to make sure that my damage was all reduced even more. I survived the first flurry of attacks, but I wasn't lucky, so I didn't manage to get a mark with my free aim shots, so I just opted to use a healing tint, and we're back up to 3,400 health. This guy doesn't have anything else that can hurt Mael enough to be able to kill her at all, so, I mean, he went into defensive stance, and he hit me a whole bunch, very impressive looking, pumped his shields way up, but I can just use Breaking Rules to cut through it all and keep dealing damage. At first I was a little hesitant to use it because it does put me into offensive stance where I take 50% more damage, but it really isn't an issue. I was just playing it safe. I should have just pumped the moment that he started getting shields. This guy can't do enough damage to kill me. There's no way. So I just came at this guy with all my attacks and we finished it off really no problem at all. That's 1 Axon down, 1 to go. It was at this point in the game that Mael unlocked her second gradient attack, Phoenix Flame. It applies 10 burn to all enemies and revives all allies while also giving Mael a second turn in offensive stance. This ability won't be super relevant now, but its time to shine is coming. The next Axon is Seren, and getting to her is very easy. Most of the enemies in my path are weak flyers that just get decimated in no time while rewarding massive experience to my party. And Ciel, who is already a powerhouse for my offense squad, learned Dark Wave. This ability can almost single-handedly wipe every non-boss fight encounter in just 1 turn. Unfortunately, Ciel doesn't have enough Lumina points to equip everything that I need for her to be able to use it on turn 1. I'm hoarding a massive amount of Lumina points and kind of just waiting to see if I get stuck, because I don't want to spend them in the wrong place and then get to a fight later on that I can't beat and then realize, oh no, there's nothing I can do, I'm totally fucked. Yeah, I know, classic video game hoarding behavior, I can't help myself, but you know, I feel like it's justified at least in a playthrough like this. I'd be lying if I said I didn't do the same thing when I just played through for fun, though. I have a problem with hoarding. Before facing Seren, I need to get the anti-charm Pictos from her Tissuer. He uses these curse status effects sometimes, but they have an 8-turn duration, so it really doesn't apply much pressure. Mael can just keep fighting and eventually use a healing tint to cleanse the curse away. So, since Mael can't be killed, the fight's super easy. As if my healing wasn't strong enough already, I found Healing Fire, which makes it so Mael is capable of healing 50% of her max health just from shooting enemies, plus another 10% at the start of every turn. That's 60% of her max health we can get back easily. There's even another Pictos I found in the area that doubles all healing that it's just overkill, I don't need it. So I finished fighting my way down to Seren, but before taking her on, I made a couple improvements with some new Pictos that I'd acquired, specifically the double mark Pictos, which makes it so that when Mael marks an enemy, the mark lasts for 2 attacks instead of 1. This is awesome. It makes it trivial for me to leave an enemy marked at the end of my turn, which in turn cranks all of the healing into Mael and reduces the damage that they're dealing thanks to Enfeebling Mark. Obviously, in the fight, Ciel and Minoko just pumped as much damage as they could on Seren turn 1 because it was unlikely they were going to get a turn 2, and yeah, that's how it went, and it's all going to be up to Mael. Thankfully, we're immune to Charm, because otherwise the fight would be an automatic loss with the Ballet attempting to charm Mael every single turn. But after watching Seren's best efforts to kill me, I literally started to doubt myself a little. I was wondering, did I accidentally choose the wrong difficulty mode? Nope, I went and checked in the middle of the fight, and we are in fact playing on expert difficulty mode. This build is just not something that Seren can handle. This Axon tried throwing a whole ass building at me, and Mael just shrugged it off. We did get a curse applied to us at one point, but our cleansing tint can just wipe that away no problem, and for the final turn of combat, I just disrespectfully used my gradient attack to revive both allies and then finished off Seren. My damage received was only 10,000, which is wild, because I can easily heal over 2,000 per turn, or 4,000 if I threw on that extra Pictos, and Seren just couldn't even come close. For winning the battle, I got the Energizing Turn Pictos, and that is what's going to give Ciel enough action points to nuke any non-boss encounter on turn 1. She uses one ability to apply 10 stacks of Foretell to every single enemy on the board and also give herself a second turn, and on that second turn she just eviscerates everything. Which is great because there's a literal gauntlet of enemies in my path between here and the end of Act 2. Mael might be tanky, but her fights are very long, so it's better to just let Ciel do her thing and hand me the victory in 14 seconds. Mael's immortality was kind of reaching its limit against story enemies though. A recreation of the first boss we ever managed to kill actually wiped out Mael with its ultimate attack. I did try the fight again, and this time I just killed Avik before it could unleash the ultimate attack. But it is at least concerning that Mael couldn't survive the battle, as the final battle of Act 2 is sure to be harder. Also, I just loved fighting some Saka Patats again. Just awesome to have Ciel and Minoko die to bombing every single fight. Love that. But nothing here could stop me from reaching Renoir at the top of the monolith. Without optimizing any of my character builds, I hopped right into the fight, because I wanted to see how well it would go if I just winged it. Ciel dealt about 30,000 damage on her first turn, Minoko hit for 44,000, but it wasn't long before Renoir took Ciel down, and soon after that, Minoko fell. Renoir has this irritating melee attack that finishes with a stun, but honestly, it's fine. As long as he doesn't vanish me, Mael can generally heal back to full with her mark healing, and unless I'm unlucky and can't apply a new mark, I'm pretty much good to go. When Renoir gets down to half health, he fully heals himself and continues the battle with even more attacks at his disposal, but this might actually be okay. I mean, the more attacks he's using that don't vanish me, the better. None of them can kill me. That being said, he's enraged in Phase 2, so every turn he takes is actually 2 turns. Statistically, I have no idea if Phase 2 has a lower or higher chance of me getting vanished. Regardless, the fight went remarkably well, and I think I likely experienced close to the best luck I could have hoped for in terms of not getting vanished. Renoir didn't attempt to vanish me until I'd gotten his health down to about half. I mean, I have footage of him beating my ass with every variety of attack he has and completely failing to kill me. Not that he isn't getting close, mind you, but my healing was just enough to keep my head above water in this fight. The problem is that the longer the fight lasts, the more chances he has to vanish me, and he only needs to do it once. Sadly, Mael just didn't have the damage to take him down in a timely manner, and because of that, our first attempt came to an end. Now, for the whole playthrough, I've been pretty sure that this exact fight would be the hardest one, and as a result, this is what I was waiting for and saving for. I'm kind of glad that I didn't just take it on my first try. That would have been really anticlimactic for me. And rather than brute forcing my way through the battle and hoping for good RNG, I wanted to upgrade my character builds such that we have a playstyle that dominates the fight rather than just barely makes it through. My first idea was to go and acquire the Picto's Revive Paradox that lets any revived character take a turn immediately, but damn, the enemy I need to kill was a lot stronger than I was hoping, and not only could my L not withstand its attacks, but it spent pretty much the whole fight immune to fire, so my L's whole build just doesn't really work. It's not a good matchup for me. Since I was able to withstand Sprong's attacks a long time ago, I thought maybe there's a chance I could tank my way through the whole fight, because defeating Sprong would give me an extremely powerful Pictos that lets my characters always take 2 turns instead of 1. But that didn't go well either. There's no way I could withstand his assault forever. Eventually I get some bad RNG and my healing just isn't there. Next, I thought I could beat the crow boss, I don't want to try and pronounce his name, and it gives me the shielding death Pictos, which makes it so when a character dies, they shield the other ones, and it might make it so that I can just keep everybody alive better by just kind of cycling through who's dying. But again, not even close. The only enemy that seemed doable at this point was the chromatic danseuse. I really hate trying to pronounce all these words. There's no way I'm getting even close. But yeah, I would need to make my character builds better before I can get the Revive Paradox Pictos. So I went back and tried to find any Pictos that I had missed and scooped up a lot of upgrades for my free aim damage. Probably would have been handy if I'd had those the whole time, but whatever. And then I came up with the idea to augment my character's free aim damage with Luna's Lightning Caller ability, and it actually worked really amazingly well. The plan is for me to just pump Luna full of offense, as well as equip a weapon that gives 5% of a gradient charge on critical hit. I boosted up her critical hit rate to 99%, and now every single time anybody shoots while her Lightning Caller ability is active, they're also charging up towards powerful gradient attacks. My first attempt at the fight saw massive damage coming out of my team on turn 1, but our enemy's turn essentially wiped us out. CL had one more turn, I used it to crank as much damage as possible. I have CL with this new ability that hits 7 times, which allows her to really max out her single target damage when necessary. And I was remarkably close to clearing the fight with my new strategy, but just didn't quite manage it. My second attempt started a little bit worse, but I had a plan. My L is equipped with a non-fire damage weapon this time, and I was able to eliminate the primary enemy on her second turn and shift into defensive stance to tank their return damage. I continued shooting them down while staying in defensive stance, trying to use my marks to reduce their damage and heal as much as possible. The whole fight was a little bit shaky, but my L just barely managed to survive thanks to my enemies using some attacks that were a little bit suboptimal. And then I used a Revive Tint on CL, and she luckily was able to act immediately and just cranked damage out on her enemies with nearly 50,000 damage. She was of course obliterated on the very next turn, but now my L had an enemy just barely weak enough that we could finish it off and have 2 action points left to shift into defensive stance. And shortly after that, I used Phoenix Flame to bring both allies back, and we were able to finally finish the fight. This gives us the Revive Paradox Pictos, and this is the last piece of the puzzle I need to defeat Renoir. Feeling confident in my strategy, I pumped up my L, Luna, and CL's weapons to level 20, and my L notably will no longer be using the burn weapon that I've used all game, but in fact will be using Metalum, which starts her off in Virtuose stance, because my strategy is to hopefully decimate Renoir in phase 1 and completely skip any chance he has to fight back, while also building up a ton of gradient charge thanks to Luna's weapon and critical hit rate. The battle was off to a great start, but my damage fell just shy of knocking Renoir below half health, and Luna and CL both fell as a result. But my gradient charges are almost to 2 out of 3, which is how many I need to revive both of them with my L's Phoenix Flame. Plus, with both of them having Revive Paradox, they'll be able to take their turns immediately upon being revived. So my L spent a little time in a 1v1 against Renoir. We've been here before, and it's really not that big of an issue. If he decides to vanish me, of course it's over, but if not, then I can get my full squad back. My L finally finished off that last bit of gradient charge she needed to hit 2 out of 3 and revived Luna and CL. Unfortunately, CL went first, so I wouldn't be able to use Luna to boost her damage with more lightning, but CL's Sealed Fate dealt 69,000 damage without any added lightning damage at all. I tried to have Luna put Stormcaller back in effect, but Renoir singled her out and killed her, and then finished off CL with his next attack, because he gets to attack twice because he's enraged. My L started shooting Renoir in the head, and this is when I realized that the fight is already over. I just patiently waited for his head to stop moving after each shot so I wouldn't miss. And when all my action points were gone, I used one last attack to bring this fight to a close. Renoir has been defeated and the Paintress is next. I'd been worried about whether I could defeat Renoir this whole time, but I was not even remotely concerned about defeating the Paintress. She cannot vanish me, so unless her raw damage is enough to kill my L, this is an auto win. So let's see what she can do. Yeah, she's got decent damage, but it's not enough. I blasted my way into phase 2 of the fight, completely overconfident in our chances, and in an attack where CL took 3,100 damage, my L's only taking 359. I'm just not worried. The only attack that got my blood pumping a bit was a devastating combo attack that got really close to killing my L.
Ready to parry.
No ready to parry. But just 2 free aim shots later had her up to 2,700 health, and the Paintress is on the brink. I revived CL, and she shot the Paintress's shields away before attacking with Sealed Fate to finish the fight. Act 2 has been conquered. No dodging or parrying necessary. We dealt over 1,000,000 damage and received 38,000, and the game changes in Act 3 because of the Painted Power Pictos, which finally allows my character's damage to exceed 9,999 per hit. SKA can now fly, which gives me access to every location on the map, and my expedition's final objective has been received. One last big boss fight against Renoir stands between me and completing this playthrough. And I can actually head straight to the battle. There's nothing I need to go do, no side stuff I need to figure out. I can just go straight there and see how it goes. And in truth, I was really expecting more resistance. I thought I would need to improve my character's builds a little bit to prepare for this final challenge. But not only was my damage more than sufficient to completely decimate my enemies in just a few turns, but the boss blocking my way to the final battle couldn't even come close to killing my L with just the one attack opportunity it received. Against Renoir in phase 1, we were just able to wipe the whole thing out with 0 damage taken by my team. In phase 2, CL was killed right off the bat, but a revived tint from Luna brought my powerhouse back. Renoir summoned some meteors, which wiped the board of CL and Luna, but the second chance Pictos brought Luna back, so I went ahead and used Stormcaller before my L started shooting. My gradient charges are maxed out, so even if Luna dies, my L can just bring her and CL back at the same time, but for now I used a revive tint on CL, and she attacked for decent damage, and then was utterly destroyed once more, with Luna going down this time as well. That's fine. I made a couple attacks with my L while she was alone, and you know, she has cranked up damage anytime she's alone, and then I brought back CL and Luna with Phoenix Flame before attacking a little bit more. Renoir dropped below half health on CL's turn, but her big combo is all set up, and she blasted away the rest of his health with Dark Wave. Luna dropped a Mayhem on Renoir to break him, skipping his next turn, but the burn damage actually finished him off, and that was it. Playing through this game was an absolute delight, and there's actually a lot of enemies significantly stronger than Renoir in Act 3 that you can face off against if you want, but none of them are necessary to beat the game. Plus, when I played through for fun, I ended up just one-shotting them all anyway, so there's no doubt in my mind they can be beaten without dodging or parrying. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring. Don't forget to check it out for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile using my links in the pinned comment or video description. There's a massive bonus pack with premium vehicles and other goodies for new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months that's available for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Thanks so much for watching. I actually finished this playthrough way back on May 15th, but I'm a slow editor that got distracted playing Tainted Grail and finishing up a video series on my Baldur's Gate roleplay story channel. If you want to check either of those videos out, just click here or maybe over here, and that should do it. Bye bye.